Hey folks, Jim Wallace here from Gun Owners Action League. Just wanted to kind of give you an update on what's happening in Fighting Chapter 135. Back in 2016, Maura Healey pulled her basically unilateral attack on the so-called assault weapons, got up, held a press conference, and basically changed 18 years of settled law. Now, in the following years, a lot of people asked, has it ever been prosecuted? Has anybody been prosecuted under that new interpretation? And to our knowledge, no individual had been prosecuted under it. Now, there may have been a few retailers that got caught in it, but they weren't allowed to talk to us because of whatever the Attorney General made them sign. So I actually coined the phrase back then that we were all made into felons in waiting, because it wasn't a law she passed, but it was a new interpretation she came up with that potentially made hundreds of thousands of people felons in waiting. It's exactly what we are. Now, going back many years, even back to the Clinton era, I would tell people that, listen, their mission is no longer to confiscate your guns. I don't think they'll do that. Can you imagine the worldwide image that would give? I believe that the mission is much more insidious. And rather than confiscate your guns, they're just going to make you a criminal on paper. And what that means is if they want you, they got you. If you own a gun, if you store a gun, whatever it might be, if they want you for anything, period, not just a gun issue, they can use that against you and say, wait a minute here. We checked your records. You own this. You've done this, whatever. They got you. So is it politically more effective? And I told the newspapers this in other media several times after Healey pulled her stunt when she was Attorney General. Is it politically better to keep 600,000 people in fear of prosecuting? Or is it more political power to prosecute a handful of people? Well, it's pretty obvious. If you can keep hundreds of thousands of people scared that they might fall into the felony category, any tyrant in the world is going to tell you that that's much better. Now, the other thing is they don't want to actually prosecute people, whether it's in 2016 or probably even the new law, because if they do, that means it has to go to court and be defended. And they pretty much know that that's not going to happen. That if they take it to court, it's going to go all the way up to federal court, and most of this stuff is going to get shot down. So here's the problem that we're facing now with this new government strategy, is none of this new law, as far as we know, is actually being enforced. Law enforcement has no clue what to do with it. The average gun owner has no clue what to do with it. And as we have tried to bring things to court, the governor is just suspending those portions of the law. So like many of our members and supporters, I look at it and say there's an unconstitutional law on the books. It has to be done away with. That's from the non-lawyer me, which I'm not a lawyer. But the courts look at it and go, yeah, it's there, but it's not being enforced. And nobody has standing because they haven't been charged or are even being threatened with being charged. So it makes challenging these laws in court very difficult. Now, I honestly believe that that's part of their plan, is just to have this devil's snare of a set of laws in place that totally confuse everybody involved, whether you're an average gun owner, whether you're a retailer, even law enforcement, and just tie us up in knots trying to figure out what we can and can't do. Now, the guidance is going to come very slow. I've already talked a little bit about in a previous audio about the Firearm Control Advisory Board, which I sit on, that tried to deal with only two things, the potential long gun roster and then the potential banned assault weapon roster. And in 2 hours, we couldn't even make a dent in just those two simple things. Well, they're not simple, but they're just two subjects out of how many that are in this chapter. So I just think we need to all keep that in mind, that this is not going to be an easy fight, because it's like nailing water to the wall, because they have no intention of giving us the opportunity to have standing in court to challenge these things. That doesn't mean we're not trying. We're working with basically all of the national groups, SAF, FPC, NRA, and all of the experts, period, all of them. We're trying to find, a chink in the armor so we can get into court and at least tackle these things. But the state is purposely making that virtually impossible by either not enforcing it or by suspending portions of the law as we try to attack them. So we're not giving up, folks, but I just thought I would make you aware of what I am seeing and others are seeing in a new government tactic in passing convoluted, unconstitutional laws, but not really enforcing them. And basically, by doing that, they've created how many hundreds of thousands, and if it's a national law, millions of what we call felons in waiting, because that's what we have become, and that's what our legislature has turned us into. So anyway, we'll keep you up to date, folks, and things are moving along, and we're still fighting this in every way we possibly can. And thank you for your support, and we'll keep in touch. Thanks.